Thank you so much and welcome to our second talk of this season of Fashion Forward. This afternoon we're talking about heritage and innovation. And today's talk is brought to you by our partner this season, Polymoda. Polymoda is a fashion school that was started in 1986. And one of the founding members of it and a key part of the institution was Mr. Emilio Pucci. And through Polymoda, we've brought today his daughter, LAUDOMIA Pucci, with us to speak about the brand's heritage and how it has grown and evolved into a very relevant, iconic Italian brand. Today's talk is presented by media personality ALANOUD BADR. We look forward to being able to engage with you afterwards with Q&As, and I invite ALANOUD and LAUDOMIA to the stage. One more quick word I wanted to mention about Polymoda is we have with us also in the audience today one of the graduates of Polymoda who's showing now at Fashion Forward, and that's Farawali. So I wanted to acknowledge her here today as well. And thank you, Polymoda, for bringing us this wonderful guest.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And can you hear me? Is the mic on? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the introduction. And it's such a pleasure to be not only sitting next to you, but having you here with us and sharing all your amazing knowledge on a brand that has been a part of the fashion industry for so long, but has made its mark beautifully in the world. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today.
We're going to start, actually, I want to start with this video before we start talking, because I think this video says a lot about not only the brand, but the way the brand is moving into the future. And can we see the video real quick?
We go round and round looking for people and places to fill our hearts, to fill our souls. We go round and round looking for people and places to fill our hearts, to fill our souls and places. We go round and round looking for to fill our souls and places. All I wanna be is happy in my own head. All I wanna do is live with no regrets. We go round and round looking for people and places.
So it's safe to say it's one of my favorite videos because it says a lot. Can you please explain to us even more what this
Well,
video
let's say
represents?
it's welcome to Florence, the land of Polymoda, and thank you for Polymoda for having us today. Really, really very happy to represent Polymoda, such an iconic school. And secondly, it's important because I think, you know, when you think of Pucci, you think of one idea of Pucci, and this really shows you that Pucci is so many things. It has an artistic dimension, it's very Italian, it is unique in its own way. We are the only fashion company who's wrapped a church in Italy. It's so many things, and you can have fun with it. And I hope that this video has shown it, and I hope that our conversation will entertain you too.
Perfect, thank you. Also, I want to talk about, well, I'm sure all of you know the brand Pucci and how it started. I love that he's actually been named the Prince of Prints for so many reasons, and it's well deserved because he actually reintroduced prints, but he's an artist. Let's just start with that, right?
I definitely believe so. Yeah.
He's an incredible artist, and he created prints that a lot of us shy from prints, but he created prints that actually complement
And last, and
Yes,
last.
complement the body and lasts for generations and generations. And you have gotten on board with the brand, but I want to point out something that I was actually funny because we were having lunch earlier. You're not a fan of Prince. She's actually not a fan of Prince, but
Of ours. I'm being very, very, very discerning. I mean, you know, when you know Pucci very, very well, you understand that there are two ingredients that come into the brand. There is a vision, first of all, of a woman, and that's probably what is the most extraordinary. My father started off his job thanks to women on the ski slopes, as we could see in the early images. And he said, you know, I've done everything to make women beautiful. So it was a service for him, servicing the body, the movement, and that was his vision, actually. And then the other thing he liked was color. And so in the early 50s, he was photographing Italy, all the nature in Italy, the Capri waters, the bougainvilleas, and he was very, very inspired by those colors and just brought back color to the fashion world after the war. And really, very much when we think of Made in Italy, it is my father that started the Made in Italy, and that's very important to see. And the Prince arrived later with the American market, and thanks to Stanley Marcus, who said, Emilio, you know, your scarves, you should do ready to wear with them. So it was an evolution, in fact.
it was a beautiful evolution. We've seen it grow and transform in so many ways. But you have a different vision for the brand, and not a different one, but something that will bring the brand forth from the past to the future in a very organic way. Exactly.
I think that, you know, what my father left us was a beautiful, beautiful images, beautiful opportunities, I would say. As I say, he started with ski wear, then went into sportswear. His first store in Capri was Emilio, original sportswear. Now today everybody's talking about sportswear and activewear, but actually it wasn't that obvious that when Dior was born in 1947, my father was doing ski and sportswear. So that's the modernity of the brand. Then in the 70s, to jump, you know, 20 years ahead, he was doing brand extension, and now we've seen the baptistry in Florence covered with a print. That's brand extension. We talk today a lot about collaborations. My father started collaborations in the mid-60s. So, you know, all these things are part of the DNA of the brand and the richness of the brand. And what I've tried to do was to carry ahead all these points and make sure they'd be relevant today as they were yesterday, just playing today's music.
And how important is styling in all of this?
Well, as we can see, styling is key. Styling is key, and I think styling has probably changed fashion today enormously. You know, we have enormous stylists.
Exactly.
Thank you. We have different kind of women. We have a very large world to serve. Other times, of course, where Pucci was a leader in fashion in the 60s and 70s, there was only a smaller market of a Western market and maybe Japanese, and then we were, of course, in Hong Kong. So at the time, we were already a global brand. But today, women of all over the world are potentially your customers, just because so many beautiful markets have opened up. South America, Middle East has become an extraordinarily important market, part of Africa,
And every market
Southeast
carries its own
Asia.
style. So
You have to respect the style, you have to understand your customers, and probably that's one of the things I enjoy most doing is spending time with the ladies, with our clients, with journalists, with every young or not young, but person who's interested in what we're doing, because you really understand the point of view of who you're trying to service. And therefore, I mean, you know, today styling is key, because every way, long skirts, short skirts, transparencies, not transparencies, sneakers, high heels, it really changes depending the mood, yeah.
yeah, and you have a thing where you don't wear all the prints all at once.
I've been wearing them for very long in my life. I nearly wear prints every day, but then I like to match it with solids,
Yes.
yes, and to wear it as you would wear
I
it
took after
in a
you today.
context.
I wore
Well, you look
solids
beautiful.
with prints.
You look beautiful.
It really brings out the prints even more.
I think the color
to-
does, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel comfortable too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So are you part of the creative process?
No. Thank God not. No, I used to be designing when I didn't have enough money to pay designers, and that's about a long time ago. And then, thank God, I mean, you have professionals for that today, and
Thank
we have a
God.
fantastic team. But of course, my father had introduced me to all the skills of design, fitting, choosing fabrics, working with the factories. So I must say that I do have a good knowledge, or very good knowledge of product, especially of ready-to-wear, a little bit less of some accessories. I enjoy very much styling moments.
Yes.
I'm always very curious to see how the designer gets interpreted by the stylist. That's halfway to the market, let's say. I enjoy being surprised by designers. That's probably the best part, when I'm not sure of something, and then actually when it comes together, it's amazing. So no, that I like very much. Yeah.
It is. And what about, you know, with how fast the world is moving, the fashion world is moving, and also social media. It's, you know, the world has become a lot smaller than it used to, and people are now being inspired differently. They're being inspired by influencers or certain personalities on Instagram. How do you see yourself catering to the millennials?
Well, you know, I was thinking of this a little bit because it's a recurrent issue for older brands, let's say. And millennial, Generation Z, it seems that they are the only ones we need to care about. And I'm not sure about that. I think that we have to respect our older customer. We don't speak that often of baby boomers or the older generation who's becoming more and more relevant because they have the money, they want to have fun, and they want to spend it. So they are definitely an important customer to keep in mind. For me, the millennials is actually the signal that the market has gotten larger. Let's just think of Dubai. 15 years ago, there was everything to be done. Today, the millennials here, if they're local or from the region or expats, etc., they all have a mixed culture. How do you relate to them? It's not just millennials. If you go to China 15 years ago hardly existed. How do you relate to them? What is their education? What is their upbringing? What is their ambition? I think our world of consumer, the Western world, already we have what I say, our closets are pretty full. But thank God there are many closets that are still quite empty. And so there is a hunger and an appetite in some markets that we really have to relate to with the new generation. So we have to always combine a sense of continuity. And I'm quite adamant about making sure that the brand doesn't run after trends per se, doesn't run after clients per se, but manages to have a conversation and make sure that the brand is understood and its DNA is understood. Because in the case of Pucci, if we lose that, we become like anybody else, and we don't want that to happen.
Exactly. But what's beautiful about Pucci too is that it's consistently relevant.
Oh,
no matter what, because it stands out on its own.
It stands out,
It stands
for
out
sure.
on its
And you can
own.
like it or not like it, but that's
Exactly.
fine.
And you can
Because
make it your own.
And you have to make it your own.
You
I
have
think
to
that's,
make it your
and it
own.
was very funny because a couple of years back, we did an app that was called Scarf Yourself.
Yeah.
And everybody had the opportunity of scarfing themselves and then posting it for us. And that was really interesting.
It's inspiring.
Because you could see how you do your makeup, your glasses, your hair. You know, how do you wear it? Yeah.
Well, I'm really curious, and I think a lot of us are curious. How are you? What can we expect from Pucci in the near future?
But listen, what I think is very important is for us is the quality. We, as I said earlier, we are part of the Made in Italy story, and I think that that's what you expect today from what we call luxury, a luxury product properly made. So I think that's key. Of course, all the printing is done in the Como region. It's though prints and printing today thanks to technology, has become quite common, we still have our tricks that make it quite complex. So that's part of what I think we should always stick to. I think we should concentrate a lot on evolution and innovation in fabrics. That's another thing that Pucci has been. And I think today there is a lot happening on innovation in fabrics. Yeah. There is a big talk about sustainability, yes, but it can become extremely complex. What I can reassure you about is that we don't destroy our product because, thank God, we're not that kind of enormous company, so we normally produce and sell and we don't destroy. I think it's important to make sure that you have a range of accessories that complements your line. If it's silks, that for us have always been very important, and all the world of textile. Sneakers is a winner on this market, so that's another part of the accessories, the eyewear, etc. So all these things I think are very good. And then we did something that's quite amusing, thanks to some young students. We did a collaboration with 24 bottles, just to mention something, yes, amusing, that is creating, of course, sustainable bottles. So you have your metal bottle and you're not running around with plastic bottles. And I think also these are things that, you know, it's amusing to do because, of course, today you can expect for the millennials other ways of saying things in the luxury world. And this was a little thing that we did.
Yes, no, that's amazing. And what about, you know, being here in Fashion Forward, in the heart of Dubai, in the Middle East? How do you think the fashion industry is moving in the Middle East, and how are you a part of it?
Well, I adore this part of the world, actually, just because it's so vibrant and so full of energy. And I think women have an extraordinary place here because they are spoiling us as fashion companies just because you embrace fashion so much and you want to look so beautiful. And cosmetics are strong, hair is strong, looks are strong. You're extremely feminine. And I think that's very, very refreshing in a world that can be very tough to have women that like to be women. So I'm delighted to be here, delighted to catch up on what's happening. And you know, for me, it's always, as I said earlier, taking in things and understanding how the brand can do better. And we know that the girls here love our caftans. They seem to never be able to have enough of them if they're beaded, not beaded, printed, lots of solids. Yeah. And they wear the scarves. So I think, no, I think we're very happy here.
Good.
Yeah,
because we're happy to have you as a brand here, definitely. Thank you so much, LAUDOMIA. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd love it if you guys have any questions that you'd like to speak about. Or yeah, of course. Can someone give her? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rasha, and I'm an architect. I'm not into fashion.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. We are happy having you here in Dubai. As an architect, my question is about the inspiration. Fashion and design and architecture or any kind of art is very, you have to have an inspiration. So if you can talk to us about like the first moments when you start, let's say about the collection, 2020, or probably maybe now you are looking for 2021. So these moments of inspiration, what you look at nature, you look at your old archive, you look at history, you look at architecture. How you find those, like the direction or the line or the concept for the new collection?
Well, thank you for your answer, for your question, sorry. My answer would be the following. You mix a bit of everything you've said, but to be more specific, I think the design team has to have first and foremost freedom. So what they feel, because if not, no point having talent. Secondly, we have a strong heritage, and that is important to keep into consideration. So, for example, when a designer starts talking of a vision, we go into the archives, we pull up some pieces, we explain them, what it's about, if it's the prints, if it's the concept, if it's the work behind the idea originally. And then, you know, it organically takes off. And then the colors, yes, are inspired by nature most often. But it's definitely talent and brand that work hand in hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a question. Oh. Sorry. Oh, there.
Hi. We've noticed that fashion houses are increasingly using man-made materials under the guise of sustainability. How environmentally friendly are these new materials, or is it a cost-saving choice to use man-made materials over silk?
Can you repeat the question just one more time?
Which
'Cause
materials?
We're seeing increasingly man-made materials being used by
man-made
fashion
material
houses.
being used, where they're seeing an increased use of man-made material.
yeah.
So we're seeing more polyester instead of silk in being used by major fashion houses. Is this a cost-saving technique, or is it a sustainability drive?
As I said, sustainability is a very, very big issue. Solving it is even bigger, probably. So I don't want to go into that really too much because I'm afraid, you know, you could go into a mess. But what I think, honestly, is you can get some recycled materials from the most incredible things today. You can have some natural materials that are very harmful for nature. I think using too much cotton in some cases, a very high use of water. Is this the question kind of idea? Yeah. So I think that, you know, we are looking at biotechnology, materials done of bacteria, like we're looking at it with leather. We are looking at coloring done by bacteria, again, through biotechnology. I think we're pretty much in the early stages of this. I've tried to look into it. I'm researching it. It's quite complex. I think people are going ahead more in the leathers than in the fabrics, if I understand correctly. And then we are talking more and more of the recycling of fabrics and the circular economy. And for example, in Tuscany, next to Florence, there is a city called Prato that historically they always used to recycle old fabrics, and they were considered extremely, how should I say, at the lowest level of the textile industry, absolutely not looked at with interest. Today, vice versa, we are looking at them and rediscovering them because apparently we can learn from them. So I think there is a lot that we'll see in the next years and as soon as possible probably, but I think we need to match the technological advance with the creativity to make sure that things feel good, look good, and are sustainable. And I think, you know, we need to work on that a lot. But I definitely believe that the new generations, and probably also in Fashion Forward this week, we're going to see people who are really trying to express that. And I really welcome that and encourage that a lot on the new ones, on the new designers, yeah. I hope that's a decent answer.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Zaya Boumet. I'm very happy and honored to be here. And I have been following this adventure for a long time. And very young, you knew how to put this brand in front of the international stage. So I believe that it takes a lot of passion. And I wanted to know if you had specific advices, and I wanted to know if you could tell us a little on how did you do to achieve to put this brand in an international stage. Sorry for my English.
That's very, very kind of you. But listen, I didn't have much of a choice. So that was it. For my father, it was obvious that I had to pick up his brand after him. I had an extraordinary father, as you know, and he was 46 years older than me. So when I was in my early 20s, he was 70. That probably doesn't feel that old, but I think by then he wanted to make sure he wasn't alone doing things. And he expected me to do basically everything with him. And it was quite a moment. And the lucky thing, I was very, very young, and I didn't really probably gather the challenge at the time. If I had known, I'd probably be more scared, and I just had fun. So that was very lucky. And I am always very grateful to the American market, because while in Italy, at the time and probably today, when you're a very young person, you would not call up and get an appointment from a CEO. In my first work experiences in the US, I would call and I'd get an appointment with the CEO of Bergdorf and what have you, and they really made a difference for me and for my business. So I'm very grateful to America. I'm very grateful, of course, to my father. And if I manage to carry on the business, really, is what I was saying before. My passion is speaking to people, speaking to my customers, speaking to my buyers, understanding the why, the what's. And I had a fantastic buyer when I was designing who one day came up to me and she said, "LAUDOMIA, you got it all wrong, start all over again." And I said, "Well, thank you so much, you know." So it's actually, you're speaking about servicing the market, and you are in a luxury product and you have to do something right, yeah. So I learned the lesson, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you for this beautiful opportunity. My wife is starting a brand, a fashion brand, and I consider it a family business. I'm the Insta husband, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm loving it. But our bet as a family is on the slow fashion versus the fast fashion. So I wanted to get your insights. Do you think we have a good bet putting our energy behind slow fashion rather than trending, fast, quick response to the market? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It's very interesting. Let me ask you a question. No, keep the mic. Do you eat at McDonald's every day?
I might look so, but I don't.
No. No, I wouldn't dare do that kind of comment. No, that's the point. That's the point. For me, we've seen fast food coming in first, and now, since a few years, everybody's talking about slow food again, because it's good for you, etc. I think the great thing of fast fashion, it's brought to a younger generation, the millennials and so on, the opportunity to enter the fashion field, the trends, at, of course, very democratic prices. However, I think we are probably consuming too much and too fast. And I think, the idea, and Pucci is very much like that you hand over your Pucci to your daughter is fantastic. And I think we have to look at things for the quality of them, possibly, and it's good for you, it's good for your body if it's done of proper fabrics, proper colors. I mean, you do put it on your skin at the end of the day, and I think we don't talk about that enough. And the other thing that's, of course, just as important for us, and that's why I'm so, protective of made in Italy and, all the made in of a certain part of the world, is that it's humanly sustainable. And that's first and foremost, the social is what we are interested in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, sure.
Hello, how are you? So my name is Joshua. I came from Hong Kong. And I just have a question for you. So how do you manage your in-house design? Do you always hire new talents, like people that are just came out of college? Or you use the same designer that worked there for like 30, 40, 50 years? Because, sorry about that. Because like I think people that in their 20s tends to have more creative thoughts compared to people that have been working there for like 20, 30, 40 years. So I'm just curious about like how do you manage these designers and how do you hire designers and where?
I think no, it's the right question.
Thank you.
Now listen, I think you have to distinguish creativity, innovation, and experience, and you need all. Experience, for me, comes from the hands, the knowledge of product, the knowledge of factories, the knowledge of the brand, and that you need. Because you don't create it in 24 hours. You don't get a good seamstress in 24 hours. You don't have somebody who cuts leathers, who can do a shoe properly that's comfortable, even a sneaker. So that's the experience side, and you need time. You need apprenticeship, probably 4 or 5 years of school, 4 or 5 years of apprenticeship, and before you know it, you're 35. You need, of course, design teams that can speak with product, and that's probably the most challenging thing. And I often talk to Polymoda about this, and I sometimes see creatives that come out from school and have no idea how to really do a fitting, know a fabric, understand the cost of one thing, and that's very, very important. And I think that's very interesting. However, to work with young designers or young talent or young creatives, because you could be a stylist, you could be many things. You don't have to just be a designer, and bring those ideas. And we can see that in the industry today. You have stylists that are just as important as designers and have visions. And then you have to have the people behind them, you see. So we have, to answer precisely to your question, we have designers that we change quite regularly, but the design team has a longevity at the same time. So you have both. And I personally have started in the heritage headquarters, the historical headquarters in Florence, a team of very young ones just out of school, because I could see that the fact that I was talking about the brand and the history of the brand and the product to the design team and the designers, they found it was very boring, and I totally understand. And so now I get young ones to discover the brand and to express it. And when you have a 22-year-old, 21-year-old, 23-year-old saying how they are passionate about the brand and what's important for them, you have designers that are 30, 40, or 50 that are listening because they know they have to listen to the 20-year-old. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And that, I think, going back to the millennial story, is key in our generation, to have different potential designers from different parts of the world, or your clients very close to you so you can listen, and then different ages working with you, so you try again to put the best knowledge and the best creativity together. And of course, managing all that is not easy because it's a business and time is tight.
Thank you very okay.
Hi, my name is Tamara, and I'm from Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, and I have a store, a store that only houses Middle Eastern brands. And we're finding, I mean, for the past 5 years, there's been like a surge, like there's this entrepreneurial spirit, and you have the youth, especially the millennials, that are so excited to just, create, basically. And now there's kind of a shift as well from the customers where they love these unique items that are homegrown brands that they like to buy, and sometimes they prefer them over luxury brands. And so you mentioned that, the locals here, and I find the same in Saudi, are becoming increasingly creative and entrepreneurial. So do you find that a threat? And if so, what would you feel like the challenges may be to that? So do you find that a threat, that the fact that the locals are now becoming increasingly creative, and so they're coming up with their own brands?
I find it's absolutely fantastic. Let me turn it around. We tend to forget history. Let's talk, let's say, of the 50s and 60s in Italy. We were, little brands, kind of artisans working out of Italy, and then, a generation after, we've become bigger brands. I think it's very healthy to have local. I think local means local workmanship, local creativity of expression and all that, and it's rich, and you want that. And then sometimes we are inspired, just like you're inspired by us. And I think that's a very healthy conversation. And that makes it also amusing and interesting for the buyer, the woman, the man, to come to this part of the world and come and see different things that you can't maybe find all over the place in Europe or in Asia or, in America. And I think this diversity of the market is something that we need and makes us stronger, all of us.
Thank you. Okay, one more question.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra. I flew in all the way from the Philippines, and I'm really honored to be here. My question is, because I do customized fashion for women, and I noticed that you mentioned how there are some clients that are a little bit older, but they have the money to spend on products, and then you have the millennials who are the clients that you should also be catering to because they're increasingly growing. How do you, I guess, navigate through the range of clients that you have? Who do you focus on? Do you design for, in such a way that you cater to more women, or do you design for those that have been true to the brand and will keep paying us for what we do?
It's always not an easy answer, in fact, because when I took over the business in the mid-80s, sorry, my father's generation was, of course, very old. And the question then was, how do you bring it to the young ones? And of course, this question has already repeated itself twice or three times. So it's just getting, and it probably goes faster, that's the only problem. So you have to make sure, and that's where we go back to styling and listening. I think you have those two things. So you have to have a vision, style it, and then you have to be able to present it to the woman. So it's very funny, for example, when I take my daughters to our stores, and I say, do you like this? And they say, no, mommy, this is you. I would wear it like that. And that, I think, is probably the best answer.
But that's how beautiful it is, because they can still wear it. It's relevant in all ages, but
That's
it's just about
the
styling.
interesting thing. So, really, you have to listen to your customer, no matter her age, and try and make the best of it. And I think always respect a woman's, look and make her look beautiful.
Great, thank you so much. I think one last question. Finish? Yes. Sorry, I wanted to get everyone in, but thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Thank you, LANOUD.
Thank you so much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. This was a big treat.